Hello, in the basement, lockdown, again, something very familiar about all this. Let's jump into hope for the future and vaccines and why we might be getting back to something more like normal in the reasonably near future. I don't have the slightest clue what's going on with the vaccines. No one does. Maybe the vaccine makers do, but we've been having this debate in this country for almost a week now about whether or not the liberals have screwed up vaccines, whether or not we're back of the line, front of the line, middle of the line. I don't know. And this just strikes me as a perfect partisan storm where it's going to be impossible to actually figure out what's true because we're all going to be too busy yelling at each other. Let's review what we actually know. Canada, at least right now, is working on developing vaccine production. There are some experts who dispute this and say that we could use existing facilities to make vaccines. Suffice it to say, the government of Canada, at least, does not seem to think that we can and is proceeding as if we can't. We should, if all goes well, have some domestic vaccine production capacity in about 7 or 8 months. In the meantime, we're going to be dependent on imports of vaccines from abroad. What is that going to mean? This is where we get into a really fun semantic debate. The difference between being at the front of the line and the back of the line. So the opposition has been accusing the Liberals of leaving Canada at the back of the line. The CEO of one of the pharmaceutical companies that is making this vaccine went on the CBC and said that Canada is not at the back of the line. That led Liberal partisans to go, aha, we're vindicated. Take that, conservatives and NDPers. Meanwhile, members of the opposition and their supporters noted, well, hang on. Being at the back of the line is not necessarily the only thing to worry about here. So the CEO of Moderna says we're not at the back of the line. Okay, imagine that you are on a plane with 100 people. The plane is on fire, and there's only 5 parachutes aboard. If you're sixth in line for that 5th parachute, you're screwed. That's the problem we have here. I have no idea when we're going to get vaccines. The good news is Moderna has said that Canada will receive a few million doses of the first batch, which might be enough to vaccinate some critical populations, the elderly, long-term care home workers, key hospital staff, things like that. If we use a few million doses right, we can actually make a big difference. It won't end the pandemic, but it might make what's left of the pandemic less heartbreaking and less costly in lives, which would be great news. And it would be good news for the Liberals if we get some of that first batch as well. But then if we don't get any more for 6 months, and if our friends in the United States and Germany and Britain are getting back to life largely as normal, while we sit around and hope that that new facility in Montreal opens up and starts producing vaccine, it's not going to look so great for the Liberals. Right now, we are having a really heated debate about this. A lot of accusations are being shouted. And as far as I can tell, we don't know nearly as much as the loudest voices are insisting we do know. I want to get back to normal as much as anyone. I'm over this thing. I'm sure all of you are in the same boat. But right now, we should just dampen down the shouting and wait to actually find out what we're up against here. Because when I hear liberals yelling that the liberals are doing great and non-liberals yelling that the liberals are doing terribly, I honestly don't find that particularly edifying. And I'm not sure you should either.